15th, 2024. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before I ask the clerk to call the roll, let me just mention that devices are available to help those who have difficulty in hearing. These devices use a transmitter and headphones and allow for an individual to personally adjust the volume to their needs. A device can be obtained at the Concord TV booth in the back of the council chambers, although Concord TV may be a little busy right now. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councillor Brown. Here. Mayor Champlin.
Here.
Councillor Fennessy.
Excused. He'll be here momentarily.
Councillor Foote.
Present.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Here.
Councillor Horn.
Here.
Councillor Keach.
Excused.
Councillor Kretovic.
Here.
Councillor Kurtz.
Here.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Here.
Councillor McNamara.
Excused.
Councillor Schlosser.
Here.
Councillor Schultz.
Here.
Councillor Sekou.
Here.
And Councillor Todd.
Here.
Very good. Thank you. We'll move to the consent calendar. I'll know that, sorry?
Meeting minutes? Meeting minutes?
Meeting minutes. I'm sorry.
like
You're
a
right.
motion, sir?
Meeting minutes. Approval of meeting minutes. Thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome.
I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the meeting of September 9th, 2024.
And seconded. Moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you. It was already a long night. All right, now we'll move to the consent calendar. I'll note that items 16, 19, 22, 31, and 33 were pulled from the consent calendar by Councilor Brown and will be addressed at the end of tonight's meeting. May I have a motion?
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I'm recusing myself from item 25 and 30.
Thank you, Counselor. I did have that note, and thank you for reminding me. Counselor Brown recuses herself from items 25 and 30.
Councillor Foote?
Yeah, I'm looking for the resolution. Can you help me out which one it is?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Counselor. You want to, he's looking for
I
it.
think it's probably number 32.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is,
Thank you.
32.
I'd like to recuse myself, excuse me, from item number 32.
All right. You have a spouse who is being appointed to that committee.
Unbeknownst to me, yes. So.
You vote against it.
You don't need to excuse yourself, you don't know that.
So let the minutes note that Counselor Foote
Was in
recuses
Alaska.
himself from item 32. That's what you get for being in Alaska, that's true. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We'll now move to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. Madam City Clerk, item 38A.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Traffic Code, Chapter 18, parking meters, parking, stopping, standing, and parking to modify law enforcement only parking near the federal complex on Pleasant Street.
Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council, U.S. Marshal Bill Hart has contacted city staff and requested 4 spaces of on-street law enforcement parking that was needed by the marshal staff due to staff growth at the marshal's office and federal agencies be considered along the street. Mr. Hart indicated that this is to create a situation where the marshal's vehicles are unable to respond in appropriate time frames to emergency situations such as state hospital shooting in 2023 due to the parking arrangements within the underground parking facility of the federal complex. At the July 22, 2024 Parking Committee meeting, the committee voted unanimously to recommend that 3 additional spaces for law enforcement parking be created on Pleasant Street, removing the 3 metered spaces closest to the intersection of South Street. You can see that on the map in red, and the ordinance has been provided to you. The law enforcement only parking is valid 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll open the item to a public hearing. Anyone like to testify on item 38A? Very well, I'll declare the hearing on item 38A closed. Madam City Clerk.
The next item is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title III, Building and Housing Codes, Chapter 26, Building Regulations.
Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, the state of New Hampshire occasionally adopts a new state fire code, which then requires cities and towns to update their ordinances in reference to the newer versions of the fire code. Once the state fire code is adopted, local municipalities must adopt the newer version of the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association codes, that are identified in the state fire code. The ordinance will allow the city of Concord's codes to automatically stay synchronized with the state fire code without having to change the ordinance each time the state fire code is adopted. The city of Concord can, if it chooses in the future, adopt more recent versions of the National Fire Protection Association codes than those identified in the state fire code through the ordinance amendment process, if it so desires. The proposed amendment also provides the ability of the fire chief to establish additional rules and regulations for the city of Concord, which was unintentionally removed during the previous ordinance change years ago. Glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing on item 38B. Would anyone in the audience like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 38C.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $210,000 to include $180,000 to the Golf Fund and $30,000 to the Arena Fund for fiscal year 2024, retroactive to June 30th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
The other members of the council, good news on both fronts. Annually, at the end of the fiscal year, administration reviews total expenditures in each fund, provides a supplemental appropriation request if needed for funds that have exceeded budget expenditures. For fiscal year ending June 30, 2024, adjustments are requested for the golf and arena funds. Supplemental appropriations are requested for the golf fund, $180,000, and for the arena, $30,000. The preliminary results of the golf fund are a gain of $102,000 in revenue received more than expenditures. Very positive results compared to the budget of $1,000. So we're $101,000 ahead of where we thought we'd be. The supplemental request for the $180,000 to align with actual expenditures for the budget is supported by the excess revenues in the numerous accounts that we have to cover all those expenses. In the arena fund, the preliminary results for the arena fund are a loss of $20,400 in revenues received less than expenditures. And if you remember when we did the budget, that was $54,800, so it did considerably better. Supplemental request is $30,000 to align with the actual expenditures in the budget and is supported by the excess revenues in numerous accounts. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll open item 38C to a public hearing. Would anyone like to testify on item 38C? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 38D.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $80,000 in the new airport terminal building project to replace water services at the municipal airport located at 71, 77, 83, and 87 Airport Road, and authorizing the issuance of airport general obligation bonds and notes in the sum of $80,000.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Our members of the council, the fiscal year 25 budget was approved with $75,000 in airport general obligation bond funds for the new airport terminal building for the installation of new water and sewer services to the existing buildings located on the airport. There were 7 water services and 3 sewer services that were proposed to be replaced at existing deteriorated and piggyback services to existing buildings in a proposed new airport terminal building. Some of the existing water services were installed in the 1930s. To date, 3 sewer services have been replaced and 3 water services have been replaced. Due to unforeseen conditions encountered during the installation, 4 of the water services were unable to be installed within the approved budget. Installation of the remaining 4 water services is complicated by the depth of bury and the accommodations needed to avoid conflicts with other utilities between the water and the buildings. The city has solicited pricing from private contractors to complete the 4 remaining water service replacements. And although $32,000 remains in the fiscal year 25 budget, an additional $80,000 will be required to complete the 4 remaining water service replacements. In order to complete the 4 replacements before Airport Road is paved for the final wearing course, we need to appropriate $80,000 for this purpose. Of course, this would come from the airport fund, not the general fund, and not affect the taxpayers.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to testify on item 38D? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 38E.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $12,500 in the airport fund as a transfer out to capital, authorizing the use of airport fund balance for this purpose, appropriating the sum of $250,000 in the new airport terminal building project for an environmental assessment, accepting the sum of $225,000 in grant funds from the Federal Aviation Administration, accepting the sum of $12,500 in grant funds from the state of New Hampshire, and authorizing the use of $12,500 as a transfer from the airport fund for this purpose.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Your members of the council, at the August 12th, 2024 meeting, City Council approved a consent resolution authorized me to apply for the federal and state funding in the amount of $605,000, so we requested quite a bit, including the completion of an updated environmental assessment for the airport pertaining to the proposed terminal project. As such, in order to expedite the project, as well as comply with certain FAA and New Hampshire DOT pre-award requirements, we recommend that the City Council approve the attached resolutions which you have in front of you, accepting and appropriating the federal funds. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? All right, seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to testify on item 38E? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 38F.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $20,000 in the general fund for the Parks and Recreation Department to offer programming for resident youth and authorizing the use of $20,000 as a transfer in from the Special Event Reserve Fund for this purpose.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, and members of the council, last winter, working with our community partners, we created the community, we work with the Park and Recreation, work with the Community Activity Program, a free program for resident youth held on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. The program started on February 24 and ended on April 28th of 2024. The department would like to continue this program, this Park and Recreations, for this winter and offer a free program for resident youth with supervised gym activities and supervised room available for board games, arts, and crafts. We are proposing this year that the program be called SPARC, that's S-P-A-R-C, Sports, Play, Arts, and Recreation Club, and be supervised by department staff. If funded this year, the program would run over 18 weeks from mid-November until mid-March of 2025. The goal of the program would be similar to last winter's program that was funded by the Community Special Event Fund. We'd have the citywide community center open Saturdays and Sundays for resident use of the gym for the sports and program room for board games, arts, and crafts. Advertise the program in the seasonal parks and recreation brochures, online, social media, etc. Free program available for residents, youth ages 10 and over. Like the pilot program, pre-registration is required, and this year registered youths will be issued key fobs. These key fobs will allow the department to better track participation. Youth will be able to swipe in for the program like a gym pass. If they forget, lose their card, they'll be able to check in online with a phone number or their name. The total cost is $20,000. You have the dollar set aside in reserve for this purpose. The department will also begin to hire seasonal staff as needed for the program and work with our community partners to help advertise the program. In addition to this, I've been working, if you don't mind, with Councilor Horn, and she had the idea of extending this same type of use to when we open up the new Pennacook Activity Center. And we, due to the way the budget is working right now and the vacancies went out, we have enough dollars to be able to do that. So as soon as we, if you approve this, as soon as we move into this program, we move into the Pennacook program, start hiring staff for that, and also run a similar program. Obviously, we don't have a gym there for that, so it'll be a little bit different, but it's something I think we can grow over time. And that was the idea when you created both of these community centers, that you actually slowly start to extend the hours in use for that. So this program would do that. Be glad to answer any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I would just like to know, what is the capacity for how many youth will be able to attend this? I see the average daily attendance, but how many could
Potentially use it?
Potentially, yes,
Sure.
thank you.
Ask Mr. Gill to come forward.
Welcome, Mr. Gill.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, member of City Council. Right now, if approved, we would have the ability to hire 6 staff. So from a supervision point of view, it would be a 1-to-15 ratio. So quite a few. I'm gonna, over 90 ideally.
It doesn't work in finance.
No, there's a reason for that.
Follow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Follow up?
This is just, I'm asking, how many staff would you need at the Pennacook facility as well? And could you have also, would it still be the same ratio, 1 to 15?
Yeah, the Pennacook facility is much smaller. Obviously, we don't have a gym. It's basically a large classroom. I think it's about 1,200 square feet. So we would probably have 2 staff there for a max of 30. We haven't had the fire department go up there yet to give us our certificate of occupancy. So I'm not quite sure the exact number, but we're probably around 30.
Follow up?
Yes. I know during the last program that transportation was an issue, and there was a community member, Sharma Miko, who was driving a large number of students. What kind of outreach is Parks and Rec going to do to the neighborhood, to the kids in that area? Is there going to be transportation provided for them?
We do not provide transportation. I don't have the ability for transportation. That would be a budget request, I guess. We are working, I've already had the conversation with the Concord School District about getting the words out. I've also talked with Meredith Cooley and the group. They've created a Friends of Spark to help us get the word out and do registrations. So it's going to be a combination of in the schools and then our community partners.
Thank you.
Oh.
Councilor Kearns.
Thank you. At last year's pilot program, there were volunteers who were approved. It's a little pie in the sky to imagine we might need have more than 90 children, but in the event that we did, is there a plan for volunteers to allow for additional
Yes.
youth participation this year?
I think the goal was to try to, I don't want to speak for the city manager, is to make it successful to the best of our ability with city staff, so we can come back in the spring and maybe just make this part of the regular budget process. But just like all of our programs, all the sports programs, basketball programs, we always use volunteers. So it's just that fine line of making sure that, it's the right volunteers and get to do all the training and everything. But if we can average over 90 a day, it'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Councilor Horn.
I just wanted to extend my appreciation to Mr. Espel and Mr. Gill for working with me to extend this to Pennacook. I really appreciate that.
Your idea. Glad to help.
So well done, Michelle.
Yes.
Good work. Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I've been told by certain members of the community that Parks and Rec staff has told them that certain programming was going to need to be cut as a result of this program. Is that accurate?
We had a conversation with one of the coordinated volunteers of the travel basketball program that we added 3 years ago, and we wanted to work with them to try to create a hybrid. It was taking more and more staff resources, and we have this program, plus we're opening the Pennacook Community Center. So those conversations are ongoing to say, and it's almost like Concord Crush, when we created working with the community group, we created a new youth lacrosse league and they handle the day-to-day operations, but we take the registrations and we help schedule in the facility. So that's what we're looking for, and we're not there yet.
Follow up.
Yeah. So is the change in programming for basketball as a result of this program or something else?
It's about available resources going forward to maximize the benefit of the residents of Concord.
Councilor Sekou.
Thank you. Could you please enlighten us about the pre-registration? What was last year pre-registration and how did it go?
I think it was a one-page, just like all of our programs, we do require pre-registrations. They sign a waiver, a couple of the rules, provide us a personal information. We did that in a one-page document to try to make it easy. I think the first couple of weeks it went chaotic. A lot of the kids either didn't have the registration form with them, they did, but it wasn't filled out correctly. But after probably the second week, it was really smooth. And every week it improved. So we perfected that process for this year.
Follow up?
Please. So when we say it's not filled properly, what are the steps we are putting in place to make sure? What is the reason that it's not filled properly? Are they not English speakers? Did they not get the help they needed, or because of other issues that happened? Because I think, as you said, it was a chaos last year, and some was left behind because of that process. So I just want to make sure that, again, we talked about engaging the community. We talked about giving everybody a fair share and opportunity. What are the things you are putting in place to make sure that if I come first, even if I don't know how to fill it, I will be helped by somebody that we pay to do this, or if not pay to do this, but if we have somebody there that will help.
I think the biggest thing is working with the Concord School District to do it in multiple languages. Most of the registration form was just on one language. So we've touched base with some staff at the Broken Ground School who are going to help us do that. So to get the word out, I think the other challenge and the opportunity to improve is we require parents to sign the registration form, and that's not always clearly understood. And I think we've improved that process a little bit, that, you know, we do need parents' signatures, especially if they're going to leave their children. So I think we've improved it.
Follow up?
Thank you. Last follow-up, because the capacity we are looking at, I don't know. I don't do math either. You said to do the math. If we are looking at 90, and then you have 100 that came, and the first 90 that came, for some reason they didn't fill their form correctly, we reject it, and then we go to the next, or how do you do the selection process? And then if they are issued key mobs, is that one-time use, or is it for the season?
The key fobs would be for the season, and we do follow best practices when ratios when working with kids. The max is 1 to 15. If we have 90 kids in the building, anybody comes in after that, they would have to wait until a child leaves, just like we do for pools. And we have a safe capacity. We'll handle the capacity, and then folks can wait their turn to get in.
Thank you. Councilor Foot.
Staff report indicated that approximately 60% of the children live in wards 8 or 9. Are there any participants last year or projected this year who are non-Concord residents?
The goal was to keep it like last year's, to Concord residents, Concord Pennacook residents only.
So there are there will be no participants from other communities.
No, sir.
And the cost of this is free to all of the participants, right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now open the public hearing on item 38F. Would anyone in the audience like to testify on this item? All right, seeing none, declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 38G.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $73,000 for law enforcement related programs and accepting the sum of $73,000 in unmatched grant funds from the United States Department of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Other members of the council, these dollars would be used for technical upgrades, equipment purchases, and training.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone in the audience like to testify on item 38G? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 38H.
It is a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application in an amount of up to $25,300, appropriating the sum of $25,300 for police department roadway safety and outreach initiatives, and accepting the sum of $25,300 in grant funds from the New Hampshire Highway Safety Agency for this purpose.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there's a total match for the city for $6,325. It's an in-kind match. So simply put dollars amounts into the resources the city will be providing towards these patrols and equipment through the grant period. And you can see listed all the different programs this provides assistance to, all programs that you've supported in the past.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll open this item for public hearing. Would anyone in the audience like to testify on item 38H? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 38H. With the permission of the council, I'd like to hold a combined public hearing on items 38L, item 38I and item 38J. Right?
Sounds good.
All right, Madam City Clerk.
The first item is a resolution appropriating the sum of $11,000 in the Granite United Way Grant Project for training in adverse childhood experiences and accepting the sum of $11,000 from the Granite United Way for this purpose. Second is a resolution appropriating the sum of $23,505 in the Granite United Way Grant Project for expenses incurred by the Police Department for Adverse Childhood Experience Response Team program activities and accepting the sum of $23,505 from the Granite United Way for this purpose.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council, the Adverse Childhood Experience Response Team is made up of members of the Concord Police Department, the mental health providers from Riverbend, and a coordinator from the Merrimack County Human Resources. This team will visit families who have experienced incidents when police are requested for service where children may have been exposed to violence or other adverse childhood experiences. The team will assess the situation and determine next steps and referrals that can be made for either the child and or the family. This funding will be used to train those officers who have not had the training for adverse childhood experiences. The funding will continue from March 4th, 2024 through September 29th. So obviously they've been doing these programs in advance. And in addition to that, the grant will allow for the Concord Police Department to fund the department's adverse childhood response team overtime costs associated with implementing the program, and there is no match involved with the acceptance of these funds.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager? All right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify on items 38I or 38J? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, we'll now move to the public hearing action. Madam City Clerk, item 39.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, parking to modify law enforcement only parking near the Federal Complex on Pleasant Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the ordinance amendment as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 40.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title III Building and Housing Codes for building regulations.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the ordinance as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 41.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $210,000 to include $180,000 to the Golf Fund and $30,000 to the Arena Fund for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you. Moved
Second.
and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the resolution as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 42.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $80,000 in the new airport terminal building project to replace water services at the municipal airport and authorizing the issuance of airport general obligation bonds and notes in the sum of $80,000 for this purpose.
Thank you.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the resolution as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 43.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $12,500 in the airport fund as a transfer out to capital and authorizing the use of airport fund balance for this purpose, appropriating the sum of $250,000 in the new airport terminal building project for an environmental assessment, accepting the sum of $225,000 in grant funds from the Federal Aviation Administration, accepting the sum of $12,500 in grant funds from the state of New Hampshire, and authorizing use of $12,500 as a transfer from the airport fund for this purpose.
Second.
Item moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the resolution as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 44.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $20,000 in the general fund for the Parks and Recreation Department to offer programming for resident youth and also authorizing the use of $20,000 as a transfer in from the Special Event Reserve Fund for this purpose.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I think this is a fantastic program, and I just want to acknowledge Meredith Cooley, who's in the audience. I think that anything that we can do for our youth, especially in this area, is wonderful. I've been paying attention to the school board, and they recently put out a report that 43% of our public school students receive free and reduced lunches. So to qualify for free and reduced lunch, you have to, a family of 4 makes $57,720. So we, those are our kids. This is our future. So I think having a free program where kids can get together and play safely is a wonderful thing. But I have a request of Mr. Gill. I don't think it's enough to just work with the school district and Ms. Cooley. I would like to request that Mr. Gill also work closely with Sharm Amico of Project Story, Fisto and Daishmaye of Change for Concord, Jessica Livingston, as well as Clement Kagugu of Overcomers Refugee Services, and our police social worker who is part of the ACERT team. I would like to see Mr. Gill work with each of those individuals. So just as Councilor Sagu pointed out, they can eliminate any barriers and we can maximize use of this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I think this is a great program. I want to thank the people who came up with this idea last year. I did just want to highlight something and a concern that I have. This is additional funds that we've appropriated for this programming, and yet what we're hearing is that there are existing programming that we budgeted for that is being cut. And at least one member of the community has been told that the reason for that was because of this. I think that's unfortunate if that's what's being done. I think we need to have a larger conversation about programming. I think there's a lot of good programs that we are doing and could be doing through the Parks and Rec program. There's some new programming that's being offered that we're sort of outsourcing to private organizations that have a monetary interest in getting into our community spaces and trying to recruit people for a financial benefit to their organizations. And I'm very concerned that that is the place that we're going with some of our programming. And so I think we as a council need to perhaps get more engaged, and RPAC get more engaged with the programming that we're offering.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? Councilor Kurtz. Councilor Schultz. I'm so sorry.
Still looking for that upgrade in adoption.
Disease are killing me.
You know, it's great. I want to thank the city manager and David Gill, the Parks and Rec director, for working on this as a new counselor who also represents the Keach Park area. I'm very excited that this is something that is becoming permanent. I also want to second what Stacy Brown said, what Councilor Brown said about continuing to expand who we work with. I think that they are community leaders as well, who I think very easily could be worked with on these on the weekend availability. And everyone that she named is someone who has contributed greatly to our community. Overall, this is a fantastic game. So bravo to everybody for making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussions? Counselor Sickle.
I just want to second what everybody else said, but my sincere thank you go to the volunteers and the staff, because as we said, we can never go wrong on supporting our kids and giving an opportunity to all kids. But there is also many ways to make this available to all, like Councilor Foots asked, is this only for residents of Concord? Yes, it's for residents of Concord. So what can we do to make sure that all residents of Concord know about the program, take advantage of the program? And I think that will go a long way. So thank you all.
Thank you, Counselor. Yes.
I'll be real quick.
Mr. City
I
Manager.
promise. I just want to say, we got here because of, the help from Meredith Cooley and Councilor Kurtz. So they really did a lot of education for us on how to actually do this, and ran that first year experiment, which we're now making bigger, and then hopefully, as David said, next year will be part of the budget. So
Here, here. Great, thank you. Any other discussion?
I have
Counselor
one
Foot.
for Counselor Fennessy. How many children do you believe may be affected by the cut that you mentioned?
Between 60 and 65.
Really?
Yep.
I would just like to add add my thanks to everyone involved in this program. I think it's a great example of how engaged community members working with city staff can really create good programs that benefit our community, benefit our kids, and make Concord an even better place to live. So congratulations to the folks at Friends of Keach Park. Congratulations to the Parks and Recreation Department for working together with the city manager, who should take some credit in making this possible. Councilor Horn.
that's a horn.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Gill, he did note he was going to be working with the Concord School District, that he'd also be working with MV for outreach for
Point well taken.
He just gave you a thumbs up.
Point well taken, Councilor. All right. Councilor Sickler.
I'm sorry, I think I will go. Thank you for mentioning the two names. So when I said volunteer, of course, I mean Councilor Kurtz and Meredith Cooley, because we work very closely, asking questions, negotiate. He went through.
I couldn't believe you left them out.
Thank you, but you mentioned them, right? So it is important to mention that they put a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of expertise to make this happen. So thank you.
All right. Councilor Kurtz.
We weren't the only ones. It was a real broad community effort with many folks at the table for many months. So thank you.
Very good. Ready for the vote, folks? All right. All those in favor of the resolution as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Resolution passes. Congratulations to everyone. Madam City Clerk, item 45.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $73,000 excuse me, for law enforcement related programs and accepting the sum of $73,000 in unmatched grant funds from the United States Department of Justice.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Brown.
Your Honor, I will be recusing myself from items 45 through 48.
Thank you very much. All right. All those in favor of item 45 as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Madam City Clerk, item 46.
It is a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application in an amount of up to $25,300, appropriating the sum of $25,300 for police department roadway safety and outreach initiatives, and accepting the sum of $25,300 in grant funds from the New Hampshire Highway Safety Agency for this purpose.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution 46 as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Madam City Clerk, item 47.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $11,000 in the Granite United Way grant project for training in adverse childhood experiences and accepting the sum of $11,000 from the Granite United Way for this purpose.
Approval.
Second.
Item moved and seconded. Any discussion? Very good. All those in favor of the item as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 48.
A resolution appropriating the sum of $23,505 in the Granite United Way Grant Project for expenses incurred by the Police Department for Adverse Childhood Experience Response Team program activities and accepting the sum of $23,505 from the Granite United Way for this purpose.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the item as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This brings us to the reports. Mr. City Manager?
Could I suggest we do number 49 quickly, and then you might want to take just a minute or so break, and we'll set up for the next series?
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Shall I read it?
If you wish.
So-
Yeah.
Item 49 is a report from the Assistant Finance Director regarding annual comprehensive financial report award notification.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Audrey Masters, our Assistant Finance Director, who would normally be here to do this, she's on vacation this week, much needed. I am very pleased to report that the city, for the 29th consecutive year, received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. What does that mean? That means that we've been judged by a impartial panel to say that we've met very high standards in our financial reporting. We have demonstrated the spirit of full disclosure in everything that we do financially related. And this is the highest form of recognition that we can receive as a government entity for our financial reports and for accounting. So this is really a very high level report, and 29 years, I believe, is the longest in the state of New Hampshire. So that's really a very high mark that we've continued to achieve each and every year. I would like to say that although my department, the accounting department, does put this report together, we work with our auditors on an annual basis to do this, it really takes everybody in the city to work towards making sure that we reach the standards that we need in order to get this done. So I want to thank everybody, all departments in the city, for all the help. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. LeBron?
Nice work.
We'll bring Audrey to the next meeting.
That's right. That's right. She'll
She
love
can
that.
experience
The love.
the love.
Yes. All right, thank you, Mr. LeBron.
Thank you, congratulations, thank you.
Well done indeed.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to accept the report?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All right, moved, seconded, discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it, thank you. Now, I'm going to declare a 5-minute recess.
3.
2.
2-minute recess. The meeting and hand things over to Mr. LeBrun. We're so excited to finally see this report, Mr. LeBrun.
Thank you so much, and my apologies for the technical difficulties. As you can see, I did pretty good with the math stuff, but technology, I'm not doing so well. So anyway, this evening, there's a report to the City Council for the 3 options for the Beaver Meadow facility. We're here to present those 3 options and ask for a referral to the committees represented in the report. First that I'd like to introduce, obviously us, the City of Concord. I'd like to introduce Bill Hickey from H.L. Turner Group, Frank LeMay from Milestone, and you all know Phil Davis from the golf course. We're going to go through the 3 designs. We'll talk a little bit about the pricing, and then we will go into we'll just go into any questions. So the 3 options that we have are to renovate the existing facility. The second option is to renovate with an addition, and the third option is a new building. So from here, I will turn it over to Mr. Hickey to talk about the site plan and the designs.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. So this is a site plan that kind of shows all 3 options. So option 1 is just the renovation of the existing building, and that's the light brown building. It's a little hard to see at about 3 o'clock, just to the right of the parking lot. Option 2 is an addition to that building, which is kind of shown by that dashed green square. And option 3 is a new building, which is just underneath site plan, that brown building at the top of the page. My page turner just left.
I'm not leaving you for good.
Oh, you can use the pointer.
Yeah, I could go up and point if anybody needs me to.
Go to the next slide.
So option 1, just some bullet points about option 1. So it's renovating the existing facility, same footprint, 4,400 square feet, pretty much the same layout. In talking with Frank and the city, we feel that, with the renovation, it'll be pretty much down to the foundation and then reconstructing from there. So it'll essentially be a complete renovation, entire building, framing, all the equipment and everything. There is the pro shop space, which will be pretty much the same space for 2 simulators. We have included generator, signage, and solar array and battery storage, as well as some new equipment.
And this option does not include space for the ski group that's included in the other options.
So this is a floor plan of the renovation itself. It should look very familiar, very similar, because it's basically what's there now. Very little will change. And some elevations, again, very similar to what is there now. And please note, these are very conceptual. Nothing's been finalized yet, so don't read too much into them. So option 2, it's an addition. So it's around a 5,000 square foot addition, adding on to the existing building. So additional restaurant, dining space, additional pro shop space, room for an additional simulator, better restroom facilities, improved patio space, the generator, solar array, same as the other. Option 1, road signage, cabinetry, furniture. This does have the ski room included as an alternate and does have a geothermal heating system alternate included as well. So this doesn't show the footprint of the existing building, but basically the pro shop's the light blue on the lower left, and that space pretty much doubles in size. And then the improved dining space above and improved kitchen spaces and improved restrooms. So again, some very conceptual elevations of the proposed renovation addition to the existing building. Option 3, new building, about the same size square footage as the proposed renovation addition. The building would move, and that has some benefits to the operation of the existing clubhouse and pro shop. It will allow for construction to occur while the existing building remains open. And again, the improvements are pretty much the same as the option 2, the renovation addition. So additional restaurant dining space, larger pro shop, a training room, 3 simulators, additional larger restrooms, patio space, generator. So there's the ski room. A lot of similarities between option 2 and 3. Just one's renovation addition, and this option 3 is new construction. And a footprint or floor plan of the proposed option 3 building and some conceptual elevations. I'll sit back.
Okay, the renovation of the 4,400 square foot building, I don't know, tell me if you can't hear me, as far as it goes. And that came in at 5,247.
5 million.
5 million, yeah.
I'll take the 5,000.
They're gonna sign you up tonight, Frank.
Renovated.
You've got the job.
Didn't sign anything. Okay, and then option 2 is a renovation, as Bill explained, goes to 9,525 square feet, and that gets up to 8,074,327. Option 3, which is a new building at 10,500, comes in at 8,054, 8 million. Here I go again, 54,800. The breakdown of that, have you got that up there?
No, I didn't break down the construction costs
Okay,
versus the other
okay.
costs.
But generally speaking, the renovation,
Sorry.
the renovation has been talked about as the prior prices being 900 and some odd thousand, but those are limited scope of work. This is a wholesale renovation. This building was built in the 60s. Most buildings built in the 60s have no redeemable qualities. They were poorly built. There are some that are well built, but this building's tired and it's worn out. To renovate it properly, you're going to have to strip it out. You're going to have to tear everything off. The only thing you're saving is a foundation and a wood frame, and the foundation needs to be reinforced. The floor slab probably needs to be torn out. You've got to tear out most of the plumbing because it's already in failure. The roof frame carries a snow load from the 60s, and that doesn't work anymore, so you're going to have to reinforce the roof. And it's not sizably braced, so you're going to have to brace it. So you're taking a rather small building and gutting it down to almost nothing and then building it up. And that's why this price is there. The prior price was replacing items that had failed, like windows and doors and siding, but not really doing a 2024 gut renovation. So just to answer that ahead of time. The renovation, in addition, you're doing much the same thing to the 4,400 square feet, and then the addition goes to it, state of the art. And then the new building, for the reasons I explained on option number 1, the new building's coming out about the same price, even though it's 1,000 square foot more.
So in the council report, we do have the detailed costing sheets that included in the report to council. There's also the recommends referring to the committees for the Ad hoc Beaver Meadow Building Committee, the Golf Course Advisory Committee, and the Fiscal Policy Advisory Committee. So with the council's recommendation to refer these to those committees, we would work with those committees to come up with a recommendation and report back to the city council sometime after the beginning of the year. And then whatever the city council, how they would like us to proceed from there is exactly what we would do. So we'd be glad to answer any questions that anybody has tonight.
Thank you, Mr. LeBrun. Councilor Kurtz.
Yes, thank you very much for the report. Does option 3, the cost that you've worked out for that, does that include demolition of the existing building?
Yes.
Okay. And what would happen to the space where the existing building currently stands in the proposed site plan?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Right now, if you picture where the Beaver Meadow building is, and then if you look at the tent, which is kind of a little bit lower level, the plan that we would have is that we would take where the tent is and move it up to the existing building site. So then we have great access to the new building, which would be behind the 10th tee, and then also the tent, which has really become a focal point for many of the events that we have at Beaver Meadow.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, you had said the building was built in the 60s. Wasn't it also renovated recently?
Yeah.
And there was a new roof put on?
Well, I wouldn't say recently. It was at least 20 years ago. Just feels like recently. But, it's
Follow-up?
Yes. And H.L. Turner did the assessment,
We did.
the facility assessment. And that was just based on visual observation, is that correct?
Correct. Other questions? Counselor Horn?
In the new build, what are the two separate dining rooms for?
One of them is the actual dining area itself, and then the other is the kind of the bar area, so they kind of meld in together.
Okay, through that corridor
Yeah,
area.
yeah. It's shown as a corridor area, but it's really all kind of the same space.
Other questions?
What's the capacity of the dining area?
Counselor Foot?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's try
That's a good
to move things
question.
along.
I believe it's about 180 people, so that we could accommodate an event that we would have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Credit.
Just for clarification, that would be on the expansion, not on the existing. The existing is 90, which doesn't even do a full event.
That's correct. I'm sorry. I thought he
Thank
was
you.
talking about the expansion.
Thanks.
Counselor Fennessy.
Thank you. I'm not sure who this is best directed toward, but perhaps it's Mr. LeMay. There was a scope of work at some point in the past that you referenced that was $900,000. Sitting here today, if we were to do that scope of work, would that be sufficient for this building?
In other words, what would it be today?
Well, I guess it's two questions. One, what would it cost today? And two, would that make any sort of a dent in the items that are required to be renovated or upgraded at the facility?
I mean, that was done, I'm gonna say about 6, 7 years ago. So in that time, I would say pricing was probably 50 to 75% more in construction. Anything that was pre-COVID, we're seeing is at least 50% more, in some cases 70, 80% more than pre-COVID. As far as making a dent, it was things like replace windows, replace doors, but it wasn't wholesale replacement of mechanical systems. And in that time, those mechanical systems have gotten older to the point where I think Phil could tell you they back up the plumbing on a regular basis, which means the plumbing systems below the slab are failing. And I'm on the board of Second Start, and we've had that happen in the original school building, where we had to tear up all the floors and put in all new waste pipes under the floor. So I think you're looking at the same thing down the line here. So.
Follow up?
So would it be fair to say that that scope of work didn't include anything for the bathrooms?
I think it was cosmetic bathroom repair, but it wasn't wholesale replacement of piping.
Thank you.
Didn't it also, I believe that also there was tagged on another $212,000 for electrical and fire alarm systems upgrade,
Right.
which really
Correct.
brought it up from 914,000 to 1.126 million
Yeah,
for that.
exactly.
So 50% increase to do that.
Yeah,
Probably-
in that every project's different, but understand that construction was seeing inflation on as much as 10% by 2017.
And probably still see water on the floor in the ladies' room, right?
You've been in there?
Brown? I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole, Counselor, but thank you for throwing it in my direction.
Just
Counselor.
asking.
Thank you. So I was just reading the ad hoc building committee meeting minutes. The last time they met was in January, after the vote to suspend this project, and that was the next steps. Mayor Champlin provided the committee with some direction for going forward. He noted that he would like to see the committee work closely with city staff and provide several options for the clubhouse, including feasibility and cost to renovate, the feasibility and cost to put on an addition, and scaled back options for a newly built clubhouse. He also requested that some private fundraising be conducted. So I'm a little confused why the committee hasn't met since January, when they were tasked with working with staff to come up with options, and there has been no fundraising done for this.
Counselor, I'm happy to answer that unless you want to, Counselor Fennessy.
Whatever you would like. I'm happy to take that question. So the decision was made that it didn't make a great deal of sense for the committee to meet until there was options to consider, at which point the committee can then work and make whatever recommendations with the design and the construction team with respect to that. So that's why the committee has not met.
And I would add that it makes no sense to engage in public fundraising when you don't have a package. As someone who's been engaged in numerous public funding projects, you got to have your package to show people this is what we're going to do. And until you have the design phase done, there's no point in really starting to look at that. That would be my answer. Councilor Kretovic.
I was just going to add to the thought that also the committee had finished their first round of work and they hadn't actually been appointed second work. That's this meeting right here.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I just don't see where that discussion happened publicly. It states that there was public fundraising should be conducted, and it said, lastly, committee members agreed that they need to work on public relations and that the public needs to be brought along step by step in the process. It's 10 months later. And we're just now hearing about this.
I'm nonplussed by this, and I appreciate your question, but you've got to have designs to move forward on this. There could have been a lot of public meetings that would have been wheel spinning that would have gotten us nowhere, because what we need is what these gentlemen have presented, which is the three options that I requested. These are going to go, pending the approval of City Council, to the three committees listed, to the Ad hoc Beaver Meadow Building Committee, and the Golf Course Advisory Committee, and the Fiscal Policy Advisory Committee. I'm sure that the Ad hoc Beaver Meadow Building Committee is going to open this up for public hearing. And, correct?
Every meeting is public.
And review the plans. And that's where, there really would not have been anything constructive to have been done until these gentlemen had completed their work and presented their report to us.
Your Honor, I would just like to state.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I'd just like to state why I'm riled up about this. I received a tour by our golf pro, Mr. Davis, in April, and he showed me the deficiencies of the building. And I was taking pictures, and there was a picture of damage inside the pro shop wall. That was in April. I went back in December, and that damage was still there and still visible. And that was a full season. I went back yesterday. So this is, the first time I saw it was April 2023. I went back yesterday and that damage is still there. So I am very reticent to dedicate any taxpayer dollars to a facility when it is currently not being taken care of.
Councilor Kurtz.
That's
Schultz. Councilor Schultz, I am so sorry, Councilor Schultz.
I'm just going to change my name now. Again,
I noticed you have
Willie
turned your
Joy.
nameplate towards me.
I did that
didn't help.
for today. I'd also just add, as a member of that committee, I think given the conversations that were had, right as a new council coming in, was between these conversations were sort of sandwiched in, and I'm not the authority on the committee, but I do think, given how heated it was, how much opposition was on the table at that point, it makes sense to me that we took a breather a bit so we could get our ducks in a row. And that part just makes sense to me. I can understand the reasons why you're concerned about this. I guess that's why I was appointed to the committee. I have those concerns too. But I think it was reasonable given how heated it had been and how we needed to take a beat before we could regroup and start this new ad hoc committee. I hope that's helpful. Probably doesn't answer your question. But.
Thank you. Councilor Sekou.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know if it is too early and you can make it very sure if it's too early, but is there any studies that are done? Because we know what the revenue for the golf course is. After renovation, what that would be. And I use my word clearly here to make sure when we renovate or rebuild, what that will be for a revenue. Because we are investing some money here and we need to have some numbers that guide us.
Sure. As we go through the remainder of this process, and once we get recommendations from the committees, we will include a pro forma in order to have a look at what it will actually look like, and then what the contribution from the general fund will be and what the contribution from the golf fund would be. So we'll try to put all of that together as we're completing this and bringing a report back to the City Council for recommendation.
Follow up.
Thank you, Your Honor. So that will include also what the revenue of the year will be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what we try to do in the pro formas. We look at the budget, we look at the current year revenue, and we look at what we project for future year revenues. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball for future years, but we do our best projections for what we can do for future years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments
I have
or questions?
maybe
Yes,
a
Councilor Coyle.
request. So, it was heated. I was here for the last council, and there was a lot of testimony. And I think what would be important for everybody in the community to see is, okay, we do the pro forma for the golf course, but also I think we should also understand what other taxpayers spend for the arena, the pools, the Heights Community Center, the library, all these things that we recreate and use. It'd be good, for me, I think it would be good for the community to see how this compares to some of the other entities that we recreate with. I'm aware that there are 36,000 rounds of golf, I think, per year at that golf course, along with ice skating, cross-country skiing. I think it was used for a voting award at one point, I think I heard.
Not anymore. Yes, sir.
Okay, so it has potential, and I think we need to recognize not only the golf course, but I think we also need to understand where else we're spending money and how much we're spending money. And if I remember correctly, $350,000 house, this was about $25 or $30 a year on a $350,000 house. And I think it would be important to show how that compares with some of the other activities that we all, we appreciate. If that's possible, we'll do that.
I could put a chart together that would show that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Good idea.
Any other questions for? No? Thank you, gentlemen. That's a great presentation. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Apologize about the technical difficulties.
All right,
I'm
Councilor
going to take a
Craig.
class tomorrow.
Motion to approve the report and send to committees?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Councilor Brown.
Yes, I would like to see fundraising happening at these committees.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, that brings us to item number 51.
It is a staff presentation relative to housing developments
Good luck.
recently completed or currently underway.
Wow. So, bro, are we that?
Ooh, it's taking it. Sorry, Brian.
There's no report?
There is no report.
Did you click on it?
Sorry. It was meant to be a whisper. I
Oh,
forget how
gosh,
loud
I
it
don't
is.
Where were you 20 minutes ago?
You must have been somewhere else.
Oh,
Studying.
I will note that IT reports to the
See,
deputy
and
city
it
manager
flips
of
over.
finance.
I'm wondering if turn this off, will it flip back?
I bet it will.
Turn the.
I don't want to gamble that.
Just turn around. I was excited
go
about
wrong?
that, but I'll just spin around again. It's fine.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I-
All right. The hour's getting late. You've been here for a while already. A quick presentation to walk you through some housing developments that are going on in Concord because it's of great interest to everybody right now. We gave the council an update about a year ago. We've updated that now, so we're going to give it to you this way. By way of introduction, I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but the city's profile is clearly rising. When you end up on Zillow's top 10 list for 2023 of most searched communities in the United States for real estate, that's a mixed blessing. So in our case, we were number 10. Nashua and Manchester were number 2 and 3. I think Manchester was the only community on that list that was more than 100,000. So there's a lot of interest in small to medium-sized cities. And I think, Concord's attractive for a lot of reasons. It's a wonderful place to raise a family, all the reasons that we are here. But I think there's other national factors that are driving things. The pandemic, working from home, work wherever you want in the United States. I have met more people in Concord recently that are buying houses or building houses, being in the community development department, that are coming here because of climate change. I've met more Californians than I've met in a long, long time. Very interesting. When people are looking to relocate, tax system is a big thing. We're one of a handful of states, I want to say 5 of them in the United States, that have no broad-based sales or income tax. They're looking at Florida, they're looking at Texas, they're looking at, if you're looking at New England, you're looking at New Hampshire, and if you're looking at New Hampshire, you're going to look at Concord. So a lot of things that are driving that trend, but wanted to call that to everybody's attention. Some quick statistics about the city, and we'll make this available somehow through the clerk's office to everybody. That's our current population now is a little more than 44,000. We go to 80,000 during the day, 2.3 people per household. You can see what the change has been in the number of housing units between 2010 and 2022, only 574. 3% over 12 years. That's dramatically changing right now. You can see what home prices were before COVID and what they are now. It's a 70% increase over the 5 years. You can see what median rent has done. It's gone up, call it just under 30% 5 years. Our vacancy rate right now for all units is 0.4%. That's from New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. A balanced rental market is 5%. Housing choice vouchers, formerly known as Section 8, there's about 373 of them in town. Shelter beds, some of those are seasonal, there's about 90. A lot of discussion about fair share of affordable units. So this is a rather busy slide, but this is from the Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. This is the income restricted units that are located in the Central New Hampshire region, which are 20 communities. I would note that in Concord's population, this is 2020 data. Concord's population was 44,000, or roughly 36% of the regional population of 120,000. But yet Concord has 58% of the total income restricted units in the Central New Hampshire region. So to call attention to that, is Concord doing its fair share for affordable housing? The answer is resoundingly yes. And we've done a lot of work in that area, and we're proud of it. And I would also note that there are 8 communities in the region. They're on there that they have no income restricted housing units at all. So that's 40% of the region has no income restricted housing units. So I think this is also emblematic of some of the things that are going on right now. And I think when you hear discussion about changing zoning and other things, I don't think those comments are necessarily reflected at us. I think they're reflected at other communities, some of these that are on the screen right there that clearly are not doing their fair share. Again, our housing supply right now is at 22. That's a census number. It's about 19,000 units, a little bit more than that. We currently have 2,352 units that are in some level of development, which I'll go through here shortly. That's going to be a 12.1% increase over what we had in 22. So, think about what we had from the previous screen from 2010 to 2022 and what we have now. Assuming the 2.3 persons per household, if those 2,352 units come to pass, not all of them will, but a lot of them will, that could mean a population increase of Concord of 5,400 people. So roughly speaking, that would put you at about 50,000 people in the community. So that's also a sizable increase. Wanted to make you all aware of that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, sorry. What time frame is that estimated for?
That's going to be over the next not several years, but it's going to take years for that to come online. And so that 5,400 person increase is not going to show up instantly, but it will show up over the next several years. So housing that's in process, I kind of look at it this way. In the community development, we look at the department, we look at it this way. So kind of stuff that's nearing completion or recently was completed, stuff that's under construction, projects that are currently in permit, have received their permits from the planning board but are awaiting construction. It's not unusual for a project to have a lag time after it goes through planning board because they've got to update drawings, they've got to finalize everything, they've got to secure their financing, they've got, in a lot of cases, actually acquire the real estate, they don't own it yet. So lots of moving pieces after you get a planning board approval. Projects that are currently in permitting, and then some affordable housing updates to kind of remember that first slide that I showed you. So without further ado, everybody knows this project. It's Pennacook Landing. We just finished the 20 units that we did the ribbon cutting for on in March. There's 54 units at the site. A lot of city investment here. We own the site. We sold it to the developer. We secured a community development block grant to make infrastructure improvements on that site. We built their sewer system for them. We actually provided, the city has a revolving loan fund, and we provided permanent financing for that project. So lots of involvement there that's listed on the screen. You already know that we're building a park next door. We'll be having ribbon cutting on that soon. It's coming along wonderfully under the tutelage of Beth Fenstermacher. The coalition just finished 6 units last spring, early summer out on Pleasant Street. Very nice looking project for people exiting homelessness. Great project. We just finished this on South Main Street. This is the Isabella Apartments building. It's at the old employment security site. That is an 85,000 square foot, 64 unit rental project. They got a temporary certificate of occupancy in July, a permanent one in August. I believe all the units are spoken for. So that's where that's at. Lots of involvement there. The city owned the site. We sold it. We put utilities underground to facilitate that when we were doing the Main Street project. There's good planning. Did some environmental cleanup. This is Davis Ridge Apartments out on 303 Sheep Davis Road. 48 units of affordable housing being developed by Catch Neighborhood Housing, one of our excellent partners here in the community. They are already leasing that, so if you're in the market looking for affordable housing, they are doing that through Alliance Asset Management, and you can find them online, and they are looking for their certificate of occupancy at the end of this month. Rail Yard Apartments down on Langdon Avenue. It's a 192 unit project, 2 phases, 96 units each. Phase 1 is wrapping up right now. There's a small building there, 12 units that already has their certificate of occupancy. People are moving in. The other 2 larger buildings are coming along shortly here, and I expect will be occupied by the end of the year. Good project on a former brownfield site. Brookline Opportunities. This is up on the Heights, Pembroke Road. 3 buildings, 123 units of workforce housing rental. In New Hampshire, New Hampshire has an odd definition of what workforce housing is. It's 60% of the area median income for a family of 3. Every program has a different definition, but that's what workforce rental housing is in New Hampshire defined as. They will also be, I anticipate getting their certificate of occupancy probably in November, if not sooner. We do have single family development that's happening, but it's relatively small, which is not surprising. It's a relatively expensive and inefficient way of developing, but it is still happening. This is out on Curtisville Road by our conservation land that's out there. This is done by R.J. Moreau Communities, 5 detached units out there. Those are for purchase. They have 1 lot that is left available. The sale price on those has been $650 to the upper 7s. So under construction right now, you all know this project. This is First Church, Ben Kelly and John Chorley, and 30 units of rental market rate housing. The council supported that project with this RSA 79E Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive for 7 years, valued around $400,000. That project is moving along very quickly and well. 11 Lofts. This is the old DOT facility on Stickney Avenue. It's fully permitted. It was delayed for about a year. This is too much detail, but I'll tell you the story anyway. There are 2 very large ancient drain lines that go underneath that building. One of them is 150 years old, literally, and it's you can almost drive a car through it. And so we spent some time working with Brady Sullivan to make sure that those pipes were going to be lined, because all of these buildings are being turned into 80 units of housing. And we wanted to, and Brady Sullivan did too, want to make sure that that was done properly so tenants would not be at risk in the future. But we also wanted to negotiate with them rights to be able to replace those drain lines so they will not be under buildings someday. And we are glad that we were able to work that out with Brady Sullivan. I think they are too. Brady Sullivan's doing some other work down there. This is Higgins Place. So this is U-Haul. This is a little parcel across the street. They're going to be building 2 detached units there. I thought they were under construction, but it didn't look that way when I drove by today, but that'll be coming along. Up on Fisherville Road, this is at just near 30 Pines. In fact, the car wash is in the background there, self-storage. This is 68 units of townhouse being developed by the same folks who developed Abbott Village across from Swenson's, a little bit further down the road. Same developer. They're going to be for purchase. We anticipate that will probably take them a couple years to build that out, but site work is well underway there. Same neighborhood. This is 145 Abbott Road, another single family detached subdivision. The original developer of this actually became insolvent, and the investors jumped in to purchase the project before it went to foreclosure auction. And those investors are moving forward. So if you drive out there, you notice that they've been doing utility work in the street. And I think what you're going to see is another developer come in and buy all the lots and actually be the master builder for the units that get built there. For now, the barn is staying, and they're going to turn it into a single family home. Shelburne Lane, this is off of Hoyt Road, near 153 Hoyt. Hard to see here. This is 13 lots, single family, detached, on a private street. I believe it's actually condominium. That project's been talked about for a long time. It's moving forward. That's a 2024 aerial. Stuff that has been permitted and awaiting construction. So obviously phase 2 of the rail yard. This is going to be on the other side, another 96 units. We're waiting to hear from Dakota Partners of when they intend to start that project. There's been some suggestion that Dakota might have another developer finish that project. We're not quite sure. This is across the street from Tanager Circle at 30 Pines. This is another 83 units of land, of townhome. In fact, the Tanager Circle project is right there. This is Fisherville Road. This is land owned by, I believe it's Tom Cheney up there. And we're anticipating that will be moving forward and probably done in the next couple of years. This is 33 Old Loudon Road. This is behind the Chipotle, if you can picture that up on the heights. Yep. 144 units of senior rental housing market rate. They will be starting in February. We're anticipating that they're probably going to be done in about 12 to 18 months. The city is making sewer improvements on the heights. This is one of the projects that will benefit from that, although there seems to be capacity for them right now, but they will benefit. This is 59 South Main Street. This is across the street from the Capitol Center for the Arts, kind of next to the building where Cole's Kitchen is on South Main Street. Remy Hixia, who is Associated Enterprises, owns that as well as other properties downtown. He's going to be doing an addition on the second floor and doing a facade facelift on that building. He's going to be adding 4 rental units there, so we expect that to move forward soon. The Coalition to End Homelessness is doing another 8 units. This is at 6 South State Street. The city is a supporter of this project in 2 ways. One, we secured a community development block grant for them for $500,000 to help them acquire that site. Secondly, the city manager issued a street excavation waiver. When we repave a street in Concord, we do not let anybody cut that street for 5 years. In this case, the utilities there were a nightmare, and the only way we could actually get utility service to the building was to cut the street. And given how homelessness is such an issue for the community, I don't want to speak for the manager, but he signed the waiver to allow that to happen. So this is 70 Pembroke Road, the old Sprague site. So to orient you, this is Regional Drive. Our airport is right here, and our community center is up here, and this is Pembroke Road. It's the old Sprague site. It's owned by a developer based in New Hampshire. They have permits to do 370 units of townhome and apartments there. It'd be 284 apartments, 86 townhomes. That project is currently on the market, and the developer is looking to sell it to somebody who would go forward with the construction. Hopefully lowering interest rates will help get that moved along. This is Club 55 at 61 Borough Road. This project's been out there in various iterations over the years. It's 21 units of senior housing. It's going to be townhomes, but the existing home there gets turned, which is 3 units, gets renovated for that purpose as well. Don't have a schedule for them when they would move forward, but that's on Borough Road. Catch Neighborhood Housing has recently secured approvals to develop an 8-story, 28-unit building. This is 6 North State Street. So the eye doctor is next door. The intersection of Pleasant Street is right here. It's an 80-foot tall building. They are currently in the process of applying for low-income housing tax credits, and if they get funded, we would anticipate they would start construction within the next year or so. Across the street, and this is at a parking lot right now that was owned by Riverbend. Across the street, another former Riverbend property, one of the prettiest buildings in downtown. This has been acquired by GISG LLC. Mike Dennehy is working on this project. He's turning it into a 12-unit rooming house for folks that have special needs or intellectual disabilities. and he's moving forward on that. We're working, the council has approved us applying for some Invest New Hampshire funds to help support those renovations. But excellent project, much needed project. Up on Thomas Street on the Heights, another 9 units of housing has been approved there. City Council actually granted a license so they can access over some city land that we have here at the end of Thomas Street, so they can access the parking lot that they're going to be building there. But it's basically a redevelopment of that property up on the Heights. Staying on that side of the river, but in East Concord, this is 15 Hot Pole Pond Road. It's be turned into a 8-lot detached condominium. Difficult piece of property, very bony, but that has been recently approved by the planning board, and we're expecting the developer to move forward soon. Currently in permitting, there's 2 really big projects. So the first one is ROI Properties. This is down on Manchester Street. So this is the Merrimack River. The bridge over the Merrimack River is here, and I-93 is right here. So this is right off of exit 13 on 93. Project is moving forward through permitting for the back half of the site, which I'll talk about. If you drive Manchester Street now, you'll notice that this is a new St. Mary's Credit Union, which is under construction. It's been fully permitted. Up here is a new Common Man convenience store, gas station, car wash has been fully permitted. We'll be starting construction probably next season. Everything on this side, this is Black Hill Road, everything through here is currently needs to go through the permitting process and complete it. The developer has what's called a comprehensive development plan approval from the planning board, but they still need to come in for the individual site plans for these components. What this will be is a restaurant, retail about 30,000 square feet. I believe that's office, potentially medical office. And then you have apartments, and there are a total of, let me see if I remember my note. I can find my note. All in all, there are, well, it's right there on the screen because I'm tired.
So you
What happens when we have the drama of the technology? Anyway, so 266 apartments, 119 assisted living units. This project is awaiting approvals from FEMA to rework the floodplain so this can be built. City Council in 2019 approved some zoning changes to allow that to go forward, including doing residential in the Gateway Performance District. That's the same district that the mall is located in.
We've been working with them for a decade, about a decade on this project.
Yeah. So a lot of those projects you saw in the Heights, like Davis Ridge, that's also in the Gateway Performance District. That happened because of a zoning change related to this in 2019. Let's see here. Can I move forward? I should be able to move forward. This is not
Must be the end.
This is it's very close to the end, yes. Next project is the Steeplegate Mall, which the community is pretty familiar with at this point, but this project has been delayed by some court challenges from an aggrieved abutter, but we think that those might be resolved in the not too distant future. And there are 4 buildings that are proposed for 600 units of housing, in addition to the Costco and the Whole Foods and some other retail that will be developed up there. It will be supported by the recently approved sewer project that the council funded as part of the last budget that will handle the Heights. And as you know, the developers in the city are talking about a potential public-private partnership there. So in total, this is how we get to our 2,352 units. Kind of gives you a perspective of, stuff that's nearing completion is there. Under construction is another 222, approved but pending construction and currently in development permitting. That's how that breaks down. Some affordable information, rental unit information, and again, our population projection that's associated with all of that. Affordable housing. So remember that first screen or one of the early slides that showed you the region. So there are 505 units of housing that have kind of been in the works, either been built since 2020 or coming soon. So Rosemary's Way exists. The city was involved. We sold land for that. Rail yards we've talked about. Pennacook Landing we've talked about. We were heavily involved, sold land. Davis Ridge is coming along, finishing up soon, already done, starting soon, might be starting soon, already exists. So of the 505 on the screen, 373 of those units are here. So that statistic I showed you from 2020 is a little outdated at this point. Concord already is added to our income restricted housing unit units. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the city manager, Councilor President.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I just have two things. Can you send out this presentation to the council?
Yes.
That would be great. And then the second, the census statistic that you use for the 44,000 roughly, that includes the 3,000 in our gated community of the prisons?
I believe
Men's
it does,
and the
yes.
women's.
I
And
believe
so when we're looking at a potential housing increase of 5,200 to 5,300, we can separate out the people that are in the prison, correct?
If the council wanted to look at it that way, yes, yes, yeah.
With the, if you don't mind, follow up,
Follow up.
Your Honor. Can we monitor the state's plans for a new prison and if they are anticipating adding any capacity to that renovation?
Yes, I fully anticipate that we'll be working with the state when and if they bring that forward. The state's going to need to work with us on things like utilities. There's a water pressure issue at the prison site when you get to a certain elevation, which the state knows. But yes, we will be monitoring that as it goes forward. Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions from Mr. Walsh? Councilor Todd.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Walsh, thank you. It's really very comprehensive, and I think it's very good for the council and the public also to be updated on this. As going forward, as we all know, the housing crisis is an issue in almost everyone's mind, one way or another. So I just quickly, I wanted to make that comment, but also in addition to Councilor Kredovich's request, was there also a way that we could make this available to the public in some fashion by posting it somehow on the city's website, or is there a way we can?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So that'll be good. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilor Schlosser.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Todd. I appreciate this summary because it really puts it all together. So I think putting it all together, counting up the different kinds of housing really helps us understand what's the whole as opposed to this project, or something else. So I really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's important for everybody to there's a lot going on,
Yeah.
and I don't know if the community fully appreciates how much is going on in that regard.
I don't.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Kurtz.
Thank you. Another mention of appreciation, and of the 373 voucher units, I think that's what you called them, are they all full? I'm guessing based on our vacancy rate that they're all full.
So the 373 affordable units that are already built, yes, I believe they are full. I can't speak for the housing choice vouchers that we talked about at the beginning, but I imagine those folks are also housed.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Sexton.
Thank you so much,
Great to
Mr.
see
Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Walsh. This is incredibly impressive, and I know that, of course, it's not organically that a lot of this happens, that there was a lot of work by your department that went into it. Quick question, can you remind me of there's a state law that requires communities to have a certain portion of housing be income restricted?
There is I can't quote you the statute, but there is a concept in state law about making sure that communities do their fair share for income restricted housing. And I can get you that information and we'll provide it to you.
It's behind you.
674. RSA 674-58, and according to Mr. Thompson, who is an encyclopedia of all things land use law.
Quick follow-up.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. And do you know if that is specific to a specific size municipality? I was just thinking about the slide and showed all of the communities that do not have that income restricted, and I'm wondering if they are out of compliance with state law.
Sure. The way the state's workforce housing law works is it basically codifies an old New Hampshire Supreme Court case called Britton versus Chester, which states that all New Hampshire communities have to provide their fair share of the region's need for affordable housing. There is no enforcement mechanism in state law to do that. So it is upon every individual community to try to keep track of that. The other thing that the new law does is it allows builders remedy for those types of developers who are denied projects that are affordable in those communities that are not providing their fair share. So there's an expedited way for people to appeal through the land use courts to actually get their affordable housing done in a quicker process.
Thank you. Last, would you be willing to just go back to that slide so we can just look at what those communities are?
Sure.
It's at the
Go
beginning.
look at the screen, you'll get nauseous. It hurts.
There it is. So Bradford, Chichester, Deering, Dunbarton,
Loudon, Salisbury, Sutton, and Webster.
That'd be correct. As of
Thank you.
2020. Yep.
Thank you so much.
This report actually from Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission is fairly new. I actually spent some time perusing it last weekend. There's some very interesting data in there.
There are dozens and dozens and dozens of other communities just like that all around the state. And I'll give you an example. I won't age myself too much, but over 30 years ago, I suggested to our state legislatures at the time, I wasn't in Concord, that they actually tie state grants to the achievement of these numbers, or at least a plan for these numbers. And of course, many of those communities did not want to provide housing such as this, so people would not do that. You couldn't get anything like that through the legislature.
Councilor Kurtz, Councilor Schultz.
I'll just change my name at this point. This is just another FYI along those lines, because I was doing an analysis of wards for election purposes. But we have wards in Concord that have no apartment complexes. I think that's interesting too. Ward 10 is one. We do have Heritage Heights, which is fantastic as a senior residence. But we have a couple different wards that have, beyond maybe small senior residences, have no apartment complexes at all. Most do have them though. My ward has almost 50% senior or rental in Ward 9.
Thank you, Councilor Schultz.
Yay.
City Manager.
I'll just add one more item, and I promise I'll be quiet. Most of these projects that have happened, that Mr. Walsh, Mr. Thompson, only happened because the city council got involved and made these happen. These would not be here, whether it's the grants that you got, or the improvements that you made in the roads, or the additional sewer capacity or water additions. You made these happen, or the councils before you and the councils before that over all these years. So when you look at a chart like this, you can go back decades, and this is the same situation that we've been in, where the city of Concord has stepped up and provided affordable housing and provided additional housing for the region, and other communities haven't. So just so you know, and from what I understand from this council, you want to continue in that vein, and that's what we're going to continue to do, is provide that housing. So you can see, in a lot of these projects that actually haven't quite happened because of forces beyond your control. It's the market, it's the material cost rates, it's the interest rates. And when those do get worked out and you do get the proper developer in place, you're going to get that additional housing. There's a relative housing boom going on in Concord right now, and has been for years.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to the staff for this comprehensive body of work. It's really fantastic, and I'm humbled by the breadth of what you've done and provided for us. So thank you. And also, Councilor Schultz, I would love to see that research that you mentioned if you'd send it. Thank you.
I'd be happy to.
All set.
I have it.
Councilor Secretary.
And thank you, Mr. Walsh. This is the second time I saw this presentation. I think last time you did the same presentation at the leadership grade of Concord, you gave us the idea of what's happening and where we are in the development. So thank you. You said in the report earlier when you were presenting, there was 0.4. Is it Concord or is it statewide? For the health
Concord's number. That's our vacancy rate right now. So it's very similar to what the state is, but that is Concord's vacancy rate.
And we said the healthiest is 5.
Yes.
So we did our fair share, as we say, but we are not at that level of the 5%.
That's correct. And given going back to the first slide of the Zillow interest in the number of people who want to move here, and the number of units that would take, and housing is a regional issue.
Yep.
And I think the slides here demonstrate that Concord's doing its fair share. I mean, you've got the lion's share of affordable housing in central New Hampshire. You're adding more. You're proud to do that. You've got 2,300 units that are in some level of production. And I think there's a policy question of Concord is doing its share. How much can Concord do? And compared to the other communities in the region and the state. So, and frankly, as New Hampshire stays this attractive, it's going to be hard to get to a 5% vacancy rate for rental housing.
Counselor,
I have a follow-up. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, follow up.
So because I just asked that question so people know, even though we are doing our fair share, we are doing a great job, but we still are in need of housing. Because oftentimes when people talk about housing, they're like, oh, we did our parts, which is okay and which is very well appreciated. But we also have to put in mind that we are in the same boat like any other community. For 0.4, very far away from the 5. We'll never maybe get to 5 in the last, I don't know, 10 or 20 years to go. And I want also to ask, when we talk about the state law, is that all type of housing, supported housing, is that part of it or no?
The workforce housing law is both rental and ownership. For purposes of rental, Matt had indicated it's for those that earn 60% of area median income for a family of 3. If you're looking at workforce housing for ownership, it's 100% of the area median income for a family of 4, because we can't have consistent definitions across state law.
Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. You gave us a list of all these various cities and towns. Are we seeing any other communities in sort of Merrimack County with any sort of activity approaching what we're doing with respect to increasing housing supply?
Within Merrimack County.
Yeah, I mean, the only community that I'm familiar with is I know there's been a fair amount of development in Pembroke recently, and it's condo development at their golf course, and I can tell you those units are going for like $3,600 a month. So it's, you know, it's housing, but it's not if you're cringing at a $2,500 a month apartment, you're going to cringe at a $3,600 a month, you know, condo unit.
The only communities I'm aware of statewide that are in the same neighborhood in terms of raw numbers of units being produced are Merrimack and Londonderry right now.
Salem.
Salem as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Let me just add my thanks. I know how busy your department is. I know how busy you gentlemen are. When the city manager and I talked about this idea, I fully recognize that, but I too felt that this was information that this was the time to share this information, not only with the public, but also with the council, and just to kind of level set us in terms of where are we, what's in the pipeline, what is city staff working on, because you guys are involved with every one of these projects, and I just want to make sure that all of us in the community appreciate that and appreciate the work you put into it.
We'll pass that on to the folks in planning and code and engineering who are doing the real hard work. Just as a quick sidebar, Mr. Mayor, it's our department of 38. The vast majority of the department's new, it's young. We're seeing a building boom that rivals the 1980s for those who were around in the late 80s in New Hampshire. So it's an interesting time, but I'll let them know that their work is appreciated because they're the ones who are doing the hard work right now.
I'm very glad you're bringing young folks like Mr. Thompson.
And a few others. Thank you.
I'll accept a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Good work. Madam City Clerk, item number 52.
It is a report from Mayor Champlin regarding updates to the city's boards and commissions web pages.
Thank you. We put this on the agenda. Councilor Horn came to me early in the year and talked to me about possible changes to the way that we allow the public or make committee vacancies available or make the public aware of vacancies. She suggested creating a vacancy page on the city website. It was a great idea. The city clerk, God bless her, despite being short-staffed, which has changed now, thankfully, as of today. But despite being short-staffed and working on a primary election and getting everything sorted out, did a great job of starting that work and putting that page up. As the report notes, we're continuing to work on that to have information about the frequency and other information of meetings on the site. Council Horn also suggested a standardized application, a form that we might put on the site. And the city clerk has, over the last several months, been doing research on that, has looked at other websites, other cities, other communities, to determine what are the best models and how we might put such an application on the website. And I want to thank the city clerk for all that work. Council Clerk also suggested that consideration be given to changing the appointment process, which is now an appointment process which is primarily conducted by the mayor and by the city manager, in many instances by ordinance. There are exceptions to that. The planning board appoints ADR. What are the other exceptions? Is that the only other exception?
A lot of subcommittees for TPAC and a lot of
And,
subcommittees
yeah.
for conservation.
Yeah, and some committees nominate subcommittees. We're not moving forward on that. I feel strongly that the system that we have right now works very well. But I do want to thank Council Horn for her ideas, for the things that she brought forward. We should be seeing an application in
Likely
Soon.
after the November
After
election.
the November elections, right.
Maybe the new year.
Right.
But if I could add,
Absolutely.
our public information officer has been a great help in this. She's done quite a bit of work while I'm doing other things.
Thank you for
So
recognizing
I want to thank her.
Doing other things.
Councilor Benedict?
Thank you, Your Honor. My appreciation to Councilor Horn for bringing this forward, and also the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, Belonging Committee that preceded my time on, can't speak anymore, before I was on it. This was something that had come out of the public hearing, public meetings, the forums and stuff. Councilor Horn may have been attending, about having this online application for people. Not everybody has a resume, not everybody has a resume handy, but putting together just a simple application really lets people know that you're interested in being involved. I think it was absolutely one of the low-hanging fruit that was hopeful to come out of those sessions. And so thank you, and thank you to the mayor as well.
Councilor Horn, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand before.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to thank you, Mayor, and the city clerk and Ms. Breton and any other city staff for all their work. I really appreciate the time that you did that in. I know how busy you were, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Schlosser.
So I have a question about our policy on terms. I think some of our boards and commissions have clear terms, and others it's not defined. And I don't know in prior city councils if we've just decided some do have terms and some don't have terms, or it's not clear. Is there a consistent approach for that, or we don't have we have it different for different boards and commissions? How did the term business work for our members, committee members?
Want to answer that?
I'll give it my best shot. The majority of boards and commissions have terms set within the ordinances or resolutions that have created them. There are ad hoc committees that are more temporary that don't typically have terms of service, just until the project is done, if you will.
So when the city council originally sets up that committee, it determines what the term is.
And are if I may,
Follow-up?
please, are the terms listed on the committee or board or commission's webpage? That like Schlosser term ends in 76 or whatever?
They are not on the individual web
I
pages.
see. So
But the terms for each committee, if terms are stated within the ordinance, are available on those web pages via a link.
I see. So if I may,
Yes.
so the process of keeping track of that's really the committee or board will keep track of or do you keep track of somebody's term? Somebody's term is limited, is ended, and either needs to be renewed or rotated off or whatever the process. I see.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I also want to thank Councilor Horn for this effort too, because I think that this would be a great thing for all of us to keep in mind as counselors, that sort of part of our job is to actually try to find people in the public who are interested in doing these things. That makes things, this makes that a lot easier, because now I can communicate. I can just say, here's the link, and you can just go through like a menu and just look at what the committees are, what are the vacancies, and anything you might be interested in. And then I can sort of follow up with those people as well. So I think this will make that process hopefully a lot easier for us in terms of helping with the recruiting effort to get volunteers on these committees. I also want to reference Your Honor's comment in the report that, a big thank you really goes out to all the people that serve on these committees. It's a volunteer basis. People put in a lot of time. That time adds up sometimes year after year, term after term, and really helps the city council and the city function better. So I really do appreciate that. And also just wanted to thank Your Honor and the city manager for their diligent work on this in particular, because I know you've been focused on it because, we had 2 vacancies in TPAC, for example, and right away we have a replacement. So I know that you've been working on kind of watching that and helping that. Well, and for the ones that I know you both have a lot to do, and I really appreciate though that you're spending the time to do that. It really makes having committees be able to have a quorum and meet regularly and all that is helped by that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fennessy.
The last thing I just wanted to say, aside from what everybody else said about thank you, is there's constantly openings on lots of different committees. So if you're ever interested in something, talk to the city clerk, talk to a counselor. I know I'm on a variety of committees. It seems every year there's at least 1 or more, sometimes 3 or 4 times a year we're looking to fill the committee. So
You can even talk to the mayor.
you can talk to the mayor too. It's fair. It's fair. But I think this is going to help, obviously, make it easier for us to send people to one place to get the information. But I also think it's really important to get the word out. There are opportunities. Just ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to accept the report, moved and seconded. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The report is accepted. Thank you very much. This brings us to consideration of suspense items. Madam City Clerk, item number 16.
It is a report from the Deputy City Manager of Finance on behalf of the Fiscal Policy Advisory Committee regarding proposed changes to the city's fiscal goals and fund balance policy. And it was pulled from consent by Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Councilor Brown?
Yes, so we received this, all these consent agenda items Thursday evening, and I don't feel right voting for something unless I've asked the questions. So I apologize for the late hour, but I wanted to know what impact increasing the water and wastewater fees to 30% by fiscal year 2028 would have on homeowners. What kind of an increase will folks see in their bill?
City Manager.
O'Brien.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I don't believe that there's really going to be a change overall if you use the same amount of water that you're using now. Basically what this is doing is kind of reallocating between the variable cost and the fixed cost, and as water consumption goes down because of energy saving or water saving measures that people are doing, we need to have that level funding in order to operate the fund. So it's just shifting really between the variable per unit cost and into a fixed rate cost, and that's just being done over a period of time. This was part of the overall plan when there was water study that was done, water and wastewater study done 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't remember the exact year it was done. And that was all part of that plan to make some shifting and also start charging fixed rate fees in the sewer fee, because that was not charged previously. So it was all part of that plan from several years ago in order to change the way that the structure was for water and wastewater rates.
So folks will not see an increase?
I mean, you know,
or it's
I might see a little change in my water wastewater bill, based on it, especially if I'm, saving more water, because you're going to see a little bit more of a fixed rate cost and a little bit less of a per unit cost. So you won't have otherwise you have the per unit cost just keeps going up and up, and then if you have more water conservation, which helps to save water, which is great, but we still have to raise enough money, so we would end up raising the variable rate more, which is done each and every year. So you have that fixed rate, so you stay a little bit more steady, so you can anticipate what those revenues are going to be.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. LeBrun? Thank you, Mr. LeBrun.
Yep.
Have a motion?
the report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the report as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The report is accepted. Madam City Clerk, item number 19.
It is a report from the Parks and Recreation Director relative to fiscal year 23 CIP 52 Keach Park, and it was pulled by Councilor Brown.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, so I had mentioned this before, I believe during our budget. There is 43,454. Keach Park is a unique park in that it is really in the heart of probably the densest ward that we have, 1 square mile, almost over 4,000 people. So I would love to see a water fountain at Keach Park. I know there's a water fountain at the dog park at Terrell Park. I don't know if we can't get a water fountain at Keach Park. And I'd also love to see some of those funds be used towards getting a bus stop at the community center, because I think there are quite a few folks that don't have vehicles, and that would be great for them to be able to, especially kids who don't drive, or people who don't drive or newly arrived, to have a bus stop to bring them right to the community center.
Thank you, Councilor.
That's it.
Any other comments? Do I have Councilor Kurtz?
Those are good ideas. And I would support
So you need to
them.
make a motion in a second, if you want those to become, but would you like to hear from
Mr. Gill?
Gill what the money won't be spent on, or? Maybe.
Surely. Let's have Mr.
Mr.
Gill
Gill.
come up.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Correctly, a water fountain and a possible bus stop. We can definitely look into the water fountain, and we do have some water out there. It's just, how do we get water from the pool and make it seasonally adjusted? I think the bus stop, we may want to also send that to traffic. I just don't know what the bus parking layout, how that works, if you have to have a shelter, and if that already affects internal flow of the traffic. We're already running out of parking spaces, so I think that would be more of another review. The request right now is to make the playground repairs that are needed. I think a water fountain's doable, but bus stop is a little bit, merits are there, I just don't know what the size they would need.
Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regards to the bus stop, we recently had a conversation at the Public Safety Subcommittee on the unhoused, and we were having a discussion with regards to the lack of service on Manchester Street, complete lack of service on Manchester Street, and that what we're experiencing right now is members of the community that live on Manchester Street that have no access to quick access to any kind of grocery stores that they have to walk or ride a bike through are now coming into the winter months, and instead are purchasing their food from convenience stores that are located on Manchester Street. This is not the way in which we should be operating our community. I would much more be in favor of spending this type of money to do a traffic study or to do a study to see if we can expand the bus line on Manchester Street than I would for a bus stop at Keach Park. That there is a bus stop that is right on Loudon Road, and yes, I know it will improve access to the park, and all of those things are great and wonderful, but it starts with Community Action Program, who runs the CAT buses. Can they even get a bus in and out of the parking lot? And if they can't, that means renovations to the parking lot. And we know this because this is exactly the conversation we had when people wanted to have the buses go to the Beaver Meadow Golf Course. There is no bus turnaround there, and so the answer was no. And the bus stop is 0.8 of a mile away, and they were like, it's 0.8 of a mile. The kids are walking anyway. They had all the reasons in the world for why we shouldn't do it. So I would be in favor of, if we're going to look at changing something with the buses, my first vote would be for expanding services on Manchester Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councilor Fennessy.
I wanted to thank you for delivering this project under budget by $43,454. I was up there for soccer games, I think it was last Tuesday, and the soccer pitch was packed. I think it's a project that I know our PAC was very excited about when you brought it forward as something that they should consider doing with the underutilized tennis court that was there previously. So I think it's great that this was delivered under budget and that we have these funds available to be used. And my preference is that they be used for whatever necessary maintenance and repairs are required for the park. The water fountain makes sense if that's something that is feasible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gill, what kinds of repairs or maintenance is required in the playground?
2002, most of the playgrounds were renovated. They're all coming to end of life. This is just some of the apparatus that we're seeing wear and tear on. I was talking with the city manager and the finance director, is having access to the money tomorrow so we can order it to get it done hopefully before winter. This was the best way to do that since the money was already approved for Keach Park. It's just, you're going to probably see more and more of that in the 14 playgrounds we have around the city, just because they're all state of the art in 2000. They're not as bad as White Park, but they are getting older and they do need to have larger repairs.
Any safety issues?
Not right now, but that's why we want to get the repairs done.
And the reason why the money is being suggested to use at Keach Park is because the bond that was originally floated was in Keach Park, so you can use it in Keach Park. You can't take it to Rolfe Park. If you didn't want to make any improvements, you just deauthorize the rest of that bond. But so how about if I come back with or do you just want us to, if we can make the water fountain happen, and do whatever repairs that we need to do that absolutely need to be done, and try to make that work within the budget?
That sounds
that make
outstanding.
sense?
Yep. Do we need a motion for that?
No, I don't need a motion. Janice, I'm sure, picked it up. So.
Yeah. Council second.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I will say that's an excellent idea, and we have been talking about this. And I ask you a question also about the trash can, because they said some parks have trash cans, some doesn't. Some have like dog trash cans, some doesn't. And this was in a class of leadership, Greater Concord, where people are questioning our city and how we manage our park, why other parks have the privilege to have this and other don't, and why this, why that. And I think there is a great opportunity for us to improve the condition of the park in all areas, not one because of this or other because of this. And such an excellent idea to have every amenities possible, if we can, in those parks, and give them the same fair share. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Do I have a motion to accept the report?
Councilor Fennessy.
As amended.
As amended.
Second.
Yes.
Moved? Second.
Seconded.
Seconded, thank you. Councilor Schultz. Further discussion?
Bingo.
Bring to it, wow.
All right, all those in favor of the report as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Report as amended is accepted. Madam City Clerk, item number 22.
It is a report from the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee on the City Council referral regarding the free meeting space request by Change for Concord, pulled by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Councilor Brown.
Yeah, so I was at the RPAC meeting when Mr. Indayishmaye first suggested this, and I have seen him work within the community with young kids. He speaks at schools, and I've heard the teachers say how wonderful it was to have him present at schools. My own son attended a college fair, and Mr. Indayishmaye was on the panel, and my son said he was the most inspirational speaker on that panel. So I really think that we can't undersell or oversell. We should pay attention to his influence among our young people. And I think I'd really like to see Mr. Gill, work with Fisto to create an opportunity for Change for Concord. I read the report, and I know that Change for Concord wants to meet Friday evenings because that's what's good for them. I think this age group is important for us, for our community. We're taking care of the kids ages with the Spark program. This is the next step up. And we don't know if we're going to be bringing in more revenue. I know when the community program happened and the facility was open, we didn't anticipate that we were going to start making money that way. So I'd like Mr. Gill to revisit and RPAC to revisit creating space for Change for Concord, because we do not have a lot of opportunities for kids and young adults who are members of a marginalized community. And I think this is a really important group that we need to pay attention to.
Thank you, Councilor.
Would you like to send that back to the committee as the motion?
Yes, I think.
I'd like to make a motion to send it back to committee.
Second.
Seconded, okay. Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. So as a member of RPAC, there was actually two meetings where this sort of took place. There was a presentation on April 18th. There's some additional information that was requested, and then at the next September meeting of RPAC, the committee voted on the item. As you see in the report, some of the concerns that were raised by members of the committee were, one, that time had been provided in the prior year, and a small portion of it had been utilized by this group. So there were concerns among committee members that, if we agreed to this, would we be opening up the community center and then not actually having it be utilized by this group? The other piece, which was a concern of certain committee members, was the community center is not open during these scheduled times. So we would actually be having to get staffing to open up the community center at a time in which we don't normally have staffing, and what impact that might have on other programming. I personally suggested that, ideally having the community center open longer hours would be great, and something that we as a council should look into funding in the future. Until such time, it didn't make a lot of sense from the committee standpoint to open it up for this one particular group where it was uncertain whether it would be used for the time that was being requested. But I think the committee was open to revisiting the issue in the future if the community center was opening up for other reasons during those hours.
Thank you. Councilor Kurtz.
Thank you. May I ask Councilor Fennessy a question about our
Sure,
parks
I think
discussion?
so.
Sure.
Willing to answer a question?
I will take anybody's question.
Thank you very much, Counselor. I was wondering if, as part of the discussion, RPAC thought at all about, users who might be interested in paying for the gym space, right? I know we have various league play and things like that, and I just wonder if there's been any exploration of revenue opportunities at this particular Friday night time, because I understand that these individuals work, they're giving up what would be Friday night social time to do this community-focused work. Similarly, there are probably other adults of a similar age, like, who work and who then recreate in other ways, who may have need of the space. I just wonder if there was any exploration of that.
There was, and the sense that that we understood from Parks and Rec staff is they couldn't guarantee that it would be utilized during that time, and so in looking at it and the information being provided to the committee, was the expectation was you're going to have to pay for this staff time with no expectation that you're going to recoup any of it. It could happen, obviously.
Follow up?
Follow up.
Did the committee consider a pilot to see if the space was utilized once advertised as open?
They did not consider a pilot.
Thank you.
Councilor Horn.
At the meeting, there were also some suggestions I think it was Grapponi.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
Offers for nonprofits free space, and they are open in the evening. So there were some alternatives we did try to come up with to offer to them.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Thanks for mentioning that. I was up there, as a matter of fact, and that's part of their public services.
Right.
It's a beautiful, beautiful meeting space too. Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, I appreciate that as well. It was my understanding in reading the report, clearly Change for Concord wasn't able to schedule to use the room at times where they could all get together, which is why they came and they asked the committee for the Friday night space, and understanding that that's not free anymore, that's going to cost roughly $3,300. My recommendation in my motion here is just simply that to send it back to RPAC to look at other opportunities. If this is the only time that they came to you with, is there another time that might work? Though, perhaps just a further conversation with Change for Concord to see if they've been able to make that connection with Grapponi, Mazda. And if not, if there's someone else in the community that can help open up that conversation with them, such as the mayor.
We'd be happy to. Councilor Brown.
Yes, well, I would like to, I guess, amend the motion because when I was at RPAC and Mr. Ndayishmaye was talking about the time specifically, it was because a lot of them had multiple jobs, and this was the only opportunity that they could meet. And I have been to that Grapponi Mazda, and it is a beautiful space. But I think I love also Councilor Kurtz's suggestion of floating a pilot, because we don't know what other groups might jump at the opportunity to have a safe central location for Friday nights, for basketball games, for leagues. We don't know. I don't think anyone anticipated when the community program was happening that there were going to be room rentals. So I think this is just another opportunity to serve community members and also open up community space.
So what's your amendment?
So my amendment is to have a pilot program on Fridays for the Change for Concord group. And a pilot in that the center is open to.
I think what you're asking is that the report be referred back to RPAC, asking them to look at a pilot. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes, thank you.
Second.
So the amendment is, so now there's a second for the amendment. Thank you. That's a friendly amendment. Is that a friendly amendment?
It's a friendly amendment.
All right, let's just, we won't vote on it. We'll just say that that's now the amendment.
If I can just address, Councilor Kretovic asked the question, and I'm sure Mr. Gill will correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the Change for Concord specifically requested only Friday night. I think the committee was open to talking about other days when the community center was open regularly, but I guess the proposal in front of the committee was the Friday night. And Councilor Horn can speak to whatever else took place,
well,
but I think our memory is the same.
All right. Could I ask Mr. Gill to come up? Sure. Welcome again, Mr. Gill. It's always wonderful to see you.
It's always a pleasure. Good evening.
My curiosity is this: how serious is the challenge, for example, of finding staff to cover, evening hours when we're not normally open?
Staffing is a challenge. Spark program, we're going to try to hire 6 more. Most of our staff at the community center is part-time, permanent part-time. They all work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. It's becoming a challenge.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Gill?
Can I ask one more
Councilor Kretovic.
related to something previous? When I moved here to New Hampshire almost 40 years ago, I refrained from using the word water fountain because it's a bubbler. That's what I just heard. It's a bubbler.
It's a bubbler.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it.
All right.
It's a long night, I understand.
Yeah.
It's a bubbler.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
All right, the motion is to refer the report back to the RPAC, to Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee, asking them to look at creating a pilot. Any further discussion? Councilor Secretary.
I just have a question. When we say pilot, what will be that deadline so that we know it's working or not working in terms of, because it's important. Sometimes people might say, okay, let's do a pilot. We start, people don't show up, or people show up today, they don't show up tomorrow. What that would be for a pilot, 3 months, 6 months, a year?
Mr. City
Going to
Manager?
leave it to RPAC and Mr. Gill to figure that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what I would say.
I know.
All right, any further discussion? All right, if you're in favor of the motion, which is to refer the report back to committee with asking them to look at a pilot program to assess the feasibility of this program, of this being open 2 nights a week, 2 Friday nights a week for
per month.
Per month, I'm sorry.
Per
2
month.
Friday nights per month, that per week would be hard, it's late. Then you would vote aye. If you're opposed to that, you would vote no. All right?
Right, and also be open to another location.
Yes.
That's right, that was part of it. Oh, yep, be open to another location, all right? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, item 31.
It is a resolution to direct the tax collector not to execute a tax deed on certain properties in accordance with RSA 8076-2 and 2A. Moved by Councilor Brown.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, so there are 22 properties, and a number of these are manufactured units or mobile homes, trailer parks. I just want to know what support and outreach has been done to the owners of these properties.
Councilor, you do realize that the vote is not to exercise the tax deed. In other words, the city would, if we vote in
Right,
favor
no,
of this, right?
yes, I understand that, but I'm just wondering, because in the past there were some that were taken, I know these are not being taken, but I want to know how the city is reaching out and working with community
Sure,
members
okay,
that are
all right.
struggling.
Yeah, okay, all right. Mr. City Manager?
Certainly. Brian, jump up if you need to. In addition to, what happens is the collections office works very closely with all these folks who will actually communicate, that you could actually contact, and to set up either payment plans or any type of assistance and direct them to assistance that they may need. And some do and some don't. And what we try to do is, if anybody's making any type of effort whatsoever, they're behind on taxes and pay $25 a week or whatever, then you would never even actually see them. These ones here, we've looked at and said, boy, this, if we were to take these properties, to not only be the city liability of taking these, but also impact these people who live in these units. So the answer was
I
not
appreciate
to do
that.
that. So, and the city does this. You do this on a regular basis annually. So.
Are we seeing this number increase? Are we seeing more residents who are unable to pay?
I don't. This is.
Is this an increase?
Here we go. This is one of our superstars. Not you, Brian.
Not you, Brian.
Yeah, Chelsea. Chelsea can fill you in on. Maybe you can introduce yourself and what you've been up to.
Yes, Chelsea Mikulski. I'm now appointed tax collector and treasurer for City of Concord. Going on 3 or 4 months now being appointed. But to speak to the history of this, for comparison, last year, roughly the same time, we had the same proposal for waiver properties. I believe there were about 42 on the list. We're down to 22.
Okay.
And though that difference of 20 are ones that have paid. Okay. Whether that means they got some kind of assistance or they came up with, was explained, they do partial payments all the time. We explain they can make a payment, whatever schedule and amount works for them. It chips away at it.
Follow up, Your Honor?
Yes, follow up.
So those who don't respond by phone call or mail, how are there any that you're unable to reach? What do? Do you go out there? Do you have?
We have not gone out there. We send a lot with everything by certified mail. We also send out regular mail. We started actually this year sending out not only our intent to deed notices, but also a flyer with resources, city and statewide, just so that they know what options are out there with websites and phone numbers. And we received a lot of feedback that was very helpful. A lot of customers didn't know that existed.
That's great.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. I would love to see what that list of resources is. If
Sure.
you could make that available to council, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I believe it's on the website, isn't it?
We basically took it from the website and we put it onto a Word document or a PDF so that we could send it out by mail.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions for Chelsea?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope our local paper will note that we are doing our utmost to keep people in their homes. And that we're not throwing these 22 people out on the street.
like a
in
press
cold and
release.
heartless.
Do you want a motion to accept the
officials.
report?
I would love
Yes.
a motion to
Yeah.
accept.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item number 33.
They are Mayor Champlin's proposed appointments to the DEIJB Committee, Becky Kennedy and Kara Meeker, and it was pulled from consent by Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Yes, so as I talk about this, I want to highlight what the Energy and Environment Committee did for community power. We identified groups. Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay,
Nope.
sorry. Okay.
And I'm talking about that because while we were going out, reaching out to different groups to talk about community power, we identified those folks and those community members who had close access to people in marginalized community groups. And we heard from some members that, Clement Kagugu, the director of Overcomers, he's been doing this for 7 years, and this was the first time that he met with the mayor because we were doing the outreach, because it was intentional. And I think this committee is incredible, and I think it can be used to do that outreach to our marginalized community members to share information such as the Spark program. So tied in with the Spark program, these two candidates are representing the school district. And I feel that we could have better candidates representing those marginalized community members in the school district. At this meeting, they were at the table even though they had not submitted a letter or a resume. And there were people in the audience who do work closely with marginalized community members. And I feel that that sends a message that the connections in the community that we can tap into to share information out so that they can access resources. And I just feel like that community or that committee would be better served with more folks who work directly with marginalized community members.
Thank you, Councilor. I'll just point out that these two individuals are ex officio representatives of the Concord School District and the Merrimack Valley School District, and that the mayor reached out to the superintendents of each of those school districts and asked them to assign who they felt within their school district administration would be best suited to act as a liaison and conduit to share information on what the DEIJB committee was doing with their school district and to share information about what the respective school district was doing with the DEIJB committee. The membership of the committee was very deliberately built out to represent a broad cross-section of interests within the community. And I think, I understand what you're saying, I believe, but these were the appointees, these were the people suggested by the school superintendents, and so I think that they're highly appropriate appointees to this committee to act in that ex officio manner as liaisons to and from their respective school districts.
You're on the
Follow
mute.
up?
Yes. Respectfully, yes, the superintendents can speak to what they're doing, but we, students are experiencing racism in our schools that the superintendents might not have direct knowledge of. And if we are going to do anything to change that, we need to hear those stories from people who are experiencing that or work closely with those people. I think there is many levels of separation where superintendents or school board members aren't aware personally of what our community members are experiencing and what their needs are. And I know they're ex officio, and I noticed that there's a great resolution for the semi-quincentennial and tricentennial committee. There were no positions clearly outlined for this committee. So there was no way that, it did not say that there will be ex officio members from the school. I would like to see school representation, but I think having students on the committee would be outstanding because our youth, they are experiencing racism. We heard about that during our listening sessions and from members who work with them. And also a mother, Rahab Bajigni, spoke at the Pennacook listening session where her family and her children have been experiencing racism. And I think that those stories, as hard as they are to hear, they're necessary. And the communication can go both ways. They can share that with us so we understand what policies we need to change. And then when we have things like community power, a Spark program, the water rates are changing, we can communicate it to them, and then that can filter out into the community. Clement Kagugu has a women's group, and I attended one of them, and there are mothers there who are not confident in English and they don't feel valued because of that. And that's heartbreaking because they, of course, are valued. And I want to make sure that they know what resources there are. And I would love to have someone who works very closely with them and others who are in a similar situation as them understand all that we have available to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Councillor Sekou.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I think this is important, but I do have few questions and follow up, please, so that I don't have to.
Certainly.
Is Clement on the DEIJB committee?
Yes, he is.
Councillor Brown, do you have any names on the school district, and this is only related to the school district, that you would recommend tonight, other than the two we have on the list?
Your Honor, may I?
May I ask a question? Does Councilor Brown work for the school district?
No.
Is she the one that should be making that appointment?
It's a question addressed to her because we are talking about representation of school. And I think it's important for us to have, and she's a counselor. She can send any name for recommendation, either the owner, the mayor take it or not. That makes sense? I send name to him.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor. Ask your question.
Yeah. Do you have any names to recommend?
Your Honor, so I spoke with Rahab Bajigni. She was at the listening session, and she was actually excited to have an opportunity to participate in this committee. I think she has 4 children, and she has seen racism. Her children have experienced it. We can address this with those folks immediately. And I would recommend either Fisto or Sharm Amico, who work with Project Story Kids, because I attended an event that was held at the Bank of New Hampshire stage where the kids were talking about the racism that they felt in school. And we need to stop that.
Councillor, did you have a follow-up?
I do, because I think we are all ambassadors of our communities. Either you sit at a table or not, if there is an issue in the community, you should bring it to anybody you feel comfortable to share. Because sitting here around all of you guys here, hearing that, of course, we never doubted there is racism in our community. But I think it's very important that we all put that in mind as elected officials, to make sure that when we hear this, you don't have to be an elected official or sitting at a table to be a good citizen of your community. If you know something is happening, bring it to anybody you feel comfortable to. Thank you.
And I would just mention that part of the work of the steering committee is going to be to unearth these stories and to listen to these stories and to hear these lived experiences. Councillor Kurtz.
I just wanted to say, or may I ask Councillor Brown a question?
Sure.
Councillor Brown, the woman that you mentioned, is she an employee or an elected
Rahab
in the school, either school district?
She is a mother in the Merrimack Valley School District, so it was at the Pennacook.
Okay.
At the Pennacook listening session that she spoke, and I reached out to her recently, and I have shared her contact information with the mayor.
May I follow up?
Yes,
Thank
follow
you. While I understand your valid points about voices not at the table, to me it's clear that the specific role of these two individuals is as liaisons to the school board who can talk and have a spot where they can talk about policy and procedure and transmit information. And while I hope very strongly that the DEIJB committee continues to create a space for the authentic conversations that Councilor Brown is referring to, I believe that if these are the two that came forward from the school districts when asked, that we appoint them.
Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept these appointments.
Thank you.
Second.
Approved, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
All right, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that discussion, because I think these are important things for us to talk about. We now have comments, requests by mayor and city councilors. Councilor Schultz.
This is when we announce things, right?
That's right.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mayor Chandler. I just wanted to briefly say I recently resigned as a supervisor of the checklist at Ward 9, a position I've held and been elected to or appointed to at the beginning for 16 years. I'm very proud of that. It is easily one of the coolest things I've ever done. In many states, anyone who can print out the form, register people to vote, but it's very special here that we can do it on election day. So if you know anyone who's interested in doing that or other roles on election day, talk to our wonderful city clerk. But I'll say at Ward 9, I have great trust in, because it's been an amazing bipartisan, well-run, as far as I know, above board. They all are. And I just wanted to note that I was very proud to do that. And just as a city councilor, I think our city clerk is amazing. She does amazing work, as does all of her staff.
And thank you for those years of service, because poll workers like you are absolutely critical to the functioning of our democracy. So thank you.
Thank you. My honor. It's been my honor.
And I saw other hands. Councilor Brown.
Yes. So October 24th is the I-93 widening conversation at the Heights Community Center, and October 26th, Batchelder Mill Trail hike at 9, and an energy expo at Bow Memorial School that Concord Energy and Environment Committee is participating in. And voting is November 5th. Folks may not realize that RSA 674-54 authorizes government buildings such as schools do not have to follow land use regulations. And that's true for the state. That's a state law. However, Concord also, other communities have the bonding by city council, voters, aldermen, but Concord is different. Our school board can bond, and they recently did a sole source contract for over $20 million. This election, there will be 2 amendments that empower voters. One will require a simple majority of voters to approve a school relocation, and the second one, a simple majority of voters to approve the sale of property larger than 1 acre. Please get out and vote.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Curtis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, are you going to be talking about Concord Sound and Color? If you plan to, then I don't have anything to say.
I was, but you know, why don't we do it together?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yay!
Yeah,
Okay, this
hooray.
weekend, another phenomenal opportunity to get out and enjoy our amazing capital city. Downtown Concord, October 18th and 19th from 11 to 10 p.m. performances, outdoor artist market. This is an idea that I know has been many years in the making. I'll turn it over to you.
A couple of years in the making, ever since the Capital Arts Fest kind of faded out when I was still chair, no longer, of Creative Concord. I asked the leadership of the arts communities, the Chamber and in town Concord, to think up a better idea, and they have really thought up a better idea. This is free music, art installations. There are already some of them in the parks.
Community art opportunities, so bring your family, participate in community art making.
But kudos to the Chamber, to in town, to the heads and staff of all of our arts organizations in the community. They have helped to turn this into the fall of festivals in Concord. That's it. Oh, and if you're interested in learning about it, just do go to Concord Sound and Color. That's all one word, .com. ConcordSoundandColor.com for all the details.
Well done.
High five.
High five. Councilor Sekou, then Councilor Foot.
Thank you. I will also ask you to join me because Mr. Concord 2024 event is coming on October 24th. I'm honored to be invited to participate in that. I learned about it through Mary. I attended an event and she called me today and said, please ask the city council because this is a city event and it's a great opportunity to give back to the community and have fun and be part of a greater event. So it's on the 24th of October at 63 Bog Road in Concord, and the event starts at 6 p.m. and it's only $60 per person to make the impact you should make in the community.
Are you ready for the bathing suit competition? I hope you do better than I because I failed the talent. Competition.
I told them I don't sing, I don't dance. What else do you need? So we have something planned.
Good.
We'll see. And the second, you want to add to that?
I want to add to that.
Okay.
I just want to say, Councilor Sekou, I love that Mary McGann is such a legend in this community that she is just known as Mary. So one name only, Mary McGann, Mary.
So she really asked me to extend, and she sent the flyer to both the mayor and I, to the entire city council. So you are all invited, and I think it's a great event to enjoy. And I do want to also express my great gratitude to this council for your open mind and pertinent discussions. It makes me proud to sit around this table to see that people care about the community at large. And I mean it. I go to Manchester and other communities, and I will tell you, we all should be proud of ourselves that we have that mindset of serving Concord, not to please one or two, but just to open also our mind to give everybody an opportunity to discuss. And I think that's the right way to do it, and that's the best way to do it, and that should be the privilege we have as elected officials, to not be dictated by what one person think or others, than just what is better for the community at large. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Foot.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. A couple of things. Just want to compliment General Services driving throughout town or the city on their efforts for road paving and sidewalk improvements and everything that's related to that. That really makes us a very attractive city, and I think they're doing a great job with the resources that has been provided to them. And so kudos to those guys and gals. And then volunteers, East Concord, the roundabout, there were several volunteers that have put quite a bit of time in, weeding, cleaning, spreading bark mulch, all of the things to make that area attractive. I just want to compliment and those folks who volunteered on that effort. Then lastly, October 27th, Memorial Field, 11 a.m. festivities start. Walks at 1, American Cancer Society, making strides. Encourage everybody to participate, volunteer, whatever you can do. Great effort, and it's worthwhile. So hope you can all be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have two items. One of them is short notice, I realize, but it's so interesting I want to mention it. The Pennacook Historical Society is going to host From Guns to Gramophones, Civil War and the Technology That Shaped America, That's tomorrow night on October 16th at 7 p.m. And presenter Carrie Brown will explore the technological triumphs that affected the outcome of the war and subsequently transformed the nation. I'm unfortunately going to be at the planning board meeting, so I'm going to miss it. If anyone hears this, that sounds like a great event. And also the Pennacook Historical Society will
You reminded me of W.C. Fields and what he put on his gravestone.
Yeah.
You know, overall, I'd rather be in Philadelphia.
You're so right. You're so right. The Pennacook Historical Society is also going to be doing its traditional Pennacook Halloween Parade. That's going to be on Saturday, October 26th at 1 p.m. at 11 Pennacook Street. Costumes are encouraged. There will be games, cookies, and cider. All are welcome. Thank you.
Councilor Horn.
I would like to invite everyone to the Deepawali celebration that will be on Sunday, October 27th at the Unitarian Universalist Church. There will be lots of food, dancing, fun performances.
And
Thank you.
throwing up colors. No, that's all.
All right. Councilor Fennessy.
Two quick things. One, everybody's favorite service is coming, leave pickup. As you can see from Councilor Kurtz.
Almost as much excitement as sound and color. But
Exactly. Second thing is I want to thank the city clerk and her staff in advance. They've got a lot of work coming up, and I'm sure a very long night ahead of them. We won't see you until after the election, so just let us know if there's anything we can do to help. But we know everything is in good hands with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you want to announce your new position?
We recently filled a vacancy in the clerk's office. We've had a vacancy in our office since the end of May and have hired as of today. Her name is Lindsay Covey. She comes from the collections office, and we're really excited that she's joined our team. So stop in when you can, perhaps after the 4th, unless you like crowds, or the 5th, to meet her. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will say that prior to the primary, I was booted out of the clerk's office several times, or at least we canceled our meetings.
Not just you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to be out of your hair between now and the 4th as much as I can.
Just so you know, we've had to actually, she requested taking over the City Hall lobby for voting purposes.
Yes.
That many people coming in,
Yeah.
and just the backlog of folks at the counter trying to do regular business plus voting.
Wow.
Pretty astounding.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I was at Janice's office at 10, right? And there were people lined up out the door, and people sitting at the little cubbies where they could, where they could. It was exciting. It was really exciting.
We're a destination location.
Well, that's what Zillow says.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
All right. Any other business to be brought before the council? I will remind the council that we are meeting for a CIP overview and work session on Monday, the 21st. We will be convening in non-public session at 6 p.m. on the 21st. And then we will go into our CIP work session at 7. All right? Do I have let me see. I think that Councilor Horn moves that we adjourn, and Councilor McLaughlin seconds.
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Gladly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.